Hey YouTube, Twig here, bringing you all an update to my Salamangreat Yugioh deck profile for post-quarter century Stampede. Wanted to update the Salamangreat deck for the fact that it's one of my favorite Yu-Gi-Oh decks, and also we have some more readily available cards to help further the strength of the Salamangreat deck in the latest Yu-Gi-Oh booster set. Quarter Century Stampede, helping out with the play style of the deck by adding in the new hand trap Foolos, making it more readily available, and the Salamangreat Raging Phoenix also being easier to get in this new booster pack. So I always like updating this deck. We did have a recent ban list as well to change around some of the other cards I run in the deck, but without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So we'll go ahead and start off with the main deck monsters. For the Salamangreat monsters, we're running 3 copies of Salamangreat Gazelle. I would say one of the big things that also helped with this deck is the fact that, Dimension Shifter is at 1, so less chance to see it. Banishing definitely does hurt this deck because you want to set up a good amount of Salamangreat cards in your graveyard for you to use. Gazelle helps by being able to send a Salamangreat card when it's normal or special summoned, and if a Salamangreat monster is sent to your graveyard except Gazelle, and except during the damage step, you can special summon this card from your hand, giving you that setup once per turn, whether it be a Salamangreat monster or if you want to send a Salamangreat spell or trap to the graveyard, you have all that set up thanks to Gazelle. We're also running 3 copies of Spinny. Now, Spinny is debatable if you want to run 3 copies or 2 copies. This one can always be adjusted around with some of the other 1-ofs that we run for the Salamangreats. You could try 2. If you were to do so, you could always just increase your hand trap options for this spot here. Sticking to the 3-of as our only other 3-of for the Salamangreat monsters, just for more consistency for special summoning. It could be another send target off of Gazelle, then overlaying the 2 together to go into Salamangreat Mirage Thalia, and then just continue your special summon plays from there. For the 1-ofs for the Salamangreat monsters, 1 copy of Salamangreat of Fire, with this card being able to be special summoned off of cards like Mirage Thalia, so then you can just get another search when it's normal summoned or special summoned, then adding a level 4 lower Salamangreat monster from your deck to your hand, limiting you to only fire monsters for being able to be special summoned for the rest of the turn, and you can banish it from your graveyard to destroy a card you control when it battles an opponent's monster, meaning you can activate cards like Raging Phoenix, special summon ability thanks to it. Also the 1 Mirror and the 1 Foxy for more special summon setup with Mirror when you add to your hand, or being able to discard another one from your hand to the graveyard to special summon it. Foxy being able to destroy face-up power traps, or be able to search the top cards of your deck when it is normal summoned. Other 1-ofs include the 1 Weasel for special summon power from our hand if there are 2 or more Salamangreat monsters in our graveyard, so great against the Nibiru answer. The 1 copy of Jack Jaguar for the shuffleback power, special summon power from the graveyard. The 1 Falco for bounce power from the graveyard again to special summon, and being able to set up spell traps when it's sent to the graveyard that are already in the graveyard for the last of our 1-ofs. Also running 2 copies of Codasol. If you control a Cybers or a Link monster, you can special summon this card from your hand, having the option to also use it as a Reincarnation Link summon during your opponent's turn. As long as you have your Salamangreat Sanctuary on the field, allows you to then summon out your other different Salamangreat monsters from the extra deck by using this card as the banish from the graveyard. We're also running 3 copies of Lady Debug for the added search power with this card. If it's normal or special summon, to add 1 level 3 or lower Cybers monster from your deck to your hand. So you can use this card to search out Codasol, go into Salamangreat Battle Links, and then be able to summon out Codasol from there, continuing your plays quite easily. With our hand traps in the deck, now more readily available thanks to Quarter Century Stampede, 3 copies of Mulcharmy Foolos. If you control no cards, quick effect, you can discard this card, apply these effects this turn. Each time your opponent special summons a monster from the deck or extra deck, you immediately draw 1 card, and during the end phase, if the number of cards in your hand is more than the number of cards in your opponent's hand, plus 6, you must shuffle cards from your hand into the number deck equal to the number of cards your opponent controls, plus 6. So added options to just draw into more cards in your deck thanks to this card. So a definite 3-of, as I said, more readily available, so more easy to use in these decks as well, along with the 3 copies of Ash Blossom and the 2 copies of Nibiru that I also like to run in the main deck as well. If you wanted to run Droll and Lockbird instead of Nibiru or Ghost Ogre, that can always be put in for that spot as well, depending on what you want to use right there. For the spells, we're running 3 copies of Salamangreat Circle. It's just a very good searcher, but it can also help to protect your Salamangreat Link monsters as well if it's a reincarnated Link on the field. A definite 3-of, just so you always have this added search, a great draw phase plays option to also get around your opponent's Droll and Lockbird, the 1 copy of Salamangreat Sanctuary, and the 1 copy of Will of the Salamangreats. More searchable cards off of Salamangreat Raging Phoenix as well, thanks to these cards being able to set them up quite easily. And then also the 2 Signet Mining for specific cards to search off of this card. Plus, you can also send a Salamangreat monster off of this card, add your Gazelle to your hand, and then from there activate the Gazelle, since a Salamangreat was the last thing to be sent at the end of that chain. And then the other spells in the deck include 2 copies of Forbidden Droplet and the 1 copy of Call by the Grave. Just more quick play responses to have some back row setup against your opponent's hand traps, and then also just some of their bigger monsters on the field by sending your weaker ones to the graveyard to do so. The traps that we run in the deck include the 1 copy of Salamangreat Roar and the 1 copy of Salamangreat Rage. You have Destruction Power with Rage and, Omni Negate Power with Salamangreat Roar. Both can be set up in the graveyard with cards like Salamangreat Gazelle, then added back to the hand with cards like our Salamangreat Sunlight Wolf, or even the Reincarnation Link effect to then reset up Roar on the field. With the last of the traps being the 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence. If you wanted to run the Dominance lineup in the deck without being restricted to fire monsters, you could also try dropping down Signet Minings or, Spinny or Code of Soul for additional copies of those cards if you have them also. For the extra deck, we are running 3 copies of Salamangreat Battle Links. If it's Link Summon, you can add 1 Salamangreat Sanctuary from your deck to your hand. If a Salamangreat card you control be destroyed by battle card effect, you can banish this card from your graveyard instead. So having the search power for our field spell makes this a definite 3 of, but also the protection power to always have this as a resource in the graveyard to banish to protect our Salamangreat monsters on the field. The 3 copies of our Salamangreat Raging Phoenix, with this card being able to be special summoned from the graveyard when a Salamangreat card we control is destroyed, and then gain the attack of that monster on the field. So if you have Raging Phoenix and another one in the graveyard, once per turn you can use that destruction off of the first Salamangreat to special summon another one and have a permanent 5600 attack point monster on the field thanks to that. 2 copies of Salamangreat Sunlight Wolf for the added add back power of our spell and traps in the graveyard, along with when something is summoned to one of its arrows, you can add a fire monster back from your graveyard to your hand. That includes your Ash Blossom and Joy Spring. So being able to recycle this card from the graveyard is a great play as well with Sunlight Wolf. The 2 Pyro Phoenix for the use with Code of Soul on our opponent's turn to destroy all cards they control when we use that card with Salamangreat Sanctuary in the graveyard. And then the rest of the Link monsters being our 1 SP Little Knight, the 1 Heat of the Fire Charmer, 1 Nightmare Phoenix. I really like this against the Eternal Soul play against Blue Eyes. The 1 Promethean Princess, Bestower of Flames, just to help extend to our Link 4 plays all the faster. And then the 1 Xyz monster being the Stalio for the bounce back power when it's used for a Link summon, and the added special summon power by detaching 1 off of this card. As for some of the go-to plays in the deck, the added setup, I would say, is some of the best we can do in this deck. If you have Salamangreat Gazelle as your starter card, summoning this card out, you can then use it to send your Salamangreat Spinny to the graveyard. Spinny will special summon itself back. Then from there, you can go for your Xyz play to summon out your Mirage Stalio. Detach 1 off of the Stalio to summon out an additional monster to the field. You can go for your one of being your go-to Salamangreat of Fire. If you're afraid of the Nibiru play, you can add Weasel from here. If not, you can go for the additional search of another Salamangreat monster, depending on which one you may want for that play. Since you had your normal summon, I would say go for the Weasel regardless, because then from there, you have already summoned out 4 monsters. If you go for the 5th one, which would be your Salamangreat Battle Links, then this would be when your opponent would hit you with the Nibiru. You can then use the Battle Links to add your Salamangreat Sanctuary to your hand, and then from there have the initial setup, either to go for the Weasel play here, or you could go for the Link 2 play. If your opponent had a monster when you did this play here, then you'll be able to bounce one of their cards with the Mirage Stalio, and then you can summon out your Sunlight Wolf to the field. Then, having 2 or more Salamangreat monsters in your graveyard, you can summon out your Weasel to the arrow where Sunlight Wolf is, because then you can use that effect to add back your Gazelle from your graveyard to your hand. You can't use its card effects for the rest of the turn, so remember that, but then you can use these 2 additional monsters to go for 1 additional Link 3 play from there, and from there summoning out your Promethean Princess, using the Princess to then summon back your Sunlight Wolf, and then using those 2 to go into your Link 4 Raging Phoenix, all from 1 card thanks to the Salamangreat Gazelle, adding it back to your hand even from that play play, you can activate the Salamangreat Sanctuary, using it for 1 additional link play to summon out your Raging Phoenix again. This one will activate its effect, being able to then add that trap. So from there, you were able to have this additional 4 cards in your hand, and then the 4 you haven't even used for that initial play also. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed. And as always, until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. And Kira, Twig out.